Today I'm going to redesign the Star Wars Films page using Adobe XD. But first you might notice a couple of changes. One, there's not really an intro. I just got another new camera, and so I'm going to be making all of my videos in 4K, and I haven't yet made a 4K intro. So that's the reason why there's no intro. And also you might notice that I didn't post a video last week. And that's because I'm going to transition from quantity to quality, and so you're probably not going to see as many videos, but the ones that you do see, they're going to be ones that I put a lot more time and effort into and much more editing into, like this one, because I want to create content that delivers a little bit more value than the videos that I created before. And I also want to create more videos where I show some of my design work and design process instead of just the boring talking head videos that I cram through before my weekly deadline, my arbitrary weekly deadline that I gave myself. And so with that out of the way, let's talk about the design that I'm going to walk you through. This is not going to be an Adobe XD tutorial. This is actually going to be a user interface design tutorial. It's going to be a sort of walkthrough of my design and prototyping processes. And there's going to be a lot of fast forwarding, a lot of time lapses. So in real time, I think this took something like 2.5 hours. So, for the sake of time, I definitely did a lot of fast forwarding here. I'm going to break this video up into 4 parts, and you can feel free to skip to the time code of whatever part you want to see. And so the first part is going to be the film page audit. And the second part is going to be the gathering of images. The third part is going to be the design portion. And the fourth part is going to be the prototyping portion. So now let's dig in. Before redesigning something, the first thing you have to do is audit it. So I'm going to go to the Star Wars website and look at the film page to see what we're working with. And as you can see, it's not terrible, but it is pretty basic. It's got some text to the left, and it's got the image representing the movie at the right. But there's some UI elements that we could improve upon here. If I select a movie page, it's the same thing. Everything's pretty basic, so I'm going to fast forward through this part. I'm going to open up IMDb in a new tab. And I'm going to go to the latest Star Wars installment, The Rise of Skywalker. We're going to grab this movie poster right here. So we're going to select it. So I'm going to right click the image, select Save Image As, and find the images folder that I created for this project. We'll choose a logical name for it. Let's go with Star Wars EO9 for episode 9 and poster. And that should be good, so save. So we could exit out of this page now. One of the great things about IMDb is that if you scroll down on a movie page, you'll get some suggested movies. So we're going to open episode 8 in a new tab. And we're going to do the same thing with this poster. We're going to grab it and save it in our images folder. And we're going to do that for the rest of the Star Wars film, so I'm going to fast forward through this part. Now that we've collected our movie posters, the next step is to go to the first IMDb tab, which is Star Wars Episode 9. And on this page, we'll select images so we can get a hero image. Let's see if we could look around for one. This fifth one looks pretty good, so we'll grab this one. Whenever I'm scouting splash images and I'm using Chrome, I like to right click and go to the inspector to see what the size of it is. And This says 1680 by 703, which should be plenty big enough to put on a 1280 by 800 artboard. So I'm going to save this into my images folder. Instead of poster, I'm just going to write hero. So just like what we did with the movie posters, we're going to grab the hero images for each of these films, and I'm just going to fast forward through this part as well. After we've collected all of our images, we're going to open up Adobe XD and select the Web 1280 artboard, which should be the 1280 by 800 pixel artboard. And as I usually do with a new project, I renamed the first artboard, and I save the project with a new name into my projects folder. Upon looking at my images folder, I realized I forgot to get the Star Wars logo, so I'm going to go to the Star Wars Wikipedia page and grab the SVG file and save that into my images folder. And I am going to take that SVG image and place it onto the artboard here. And the reason why I saved the SVG file from Wikipedia is because the SVG file will allow us to edit the colors within the shapes. Here I'm putting down a basic wireframe to lay out where I want everything to go and to basically measure how far apart I want everything to be. So based on the 360 by 360 movie card that I want, I've determined that each of the cards is going to have to be staggered horizontally by 115 pixels, and that's exactly what I want the size of this episode box at the bottom left of each movie card to be. I want it to be 115 by 115 pixels, and the user will be able to use that episode box to navigate between the movie cards. And to the right of the episode box will be the title box, which will of course have the title, along with some basic information about the film, such as the movie's year and the runtime. So I'm going to keep the typography simple. I'm going to use Helvetica Neue throughout. Except for the episode number, I'm using a bold weight of Times because I wanted to use a serif font for that one. I'm just going to fiddle around with the size and spacing of the type until it looks balanced to me. I should adjust the size of the serif font based on episode 8, since that is the Roman numeral that takes up the most space. So I'm going to go into my images folder and drag and drop the episode 9 movie poster into the top section of the movie card. And I'm going to mask it with a rectangle. That's the size of the top section of that card, and I'm going to expand the movie poster to fill out that space within the top of the card. So for the sake of organization, I'm using the menu at the left to rename some of the items within the movie card component. And now I'm putting a dark background behind the text within the movie card. Now I'm going to duplicate the movie card component until I have a total of 9 of them for all of 9 Star Wars films. And I'm going to stagger them 115 pixels apart, like a staircase leading toward the right. And of course I'll put in the appropriate episode numbers as well as the appropriate movie posters. And of course we need the appropriate movie titles, so we'll go to IMDb and grab those and paste them onto the cards. And I do that by placing the title onto the card and then hiding that card to reveal the next card to put the title of the movie for that card. Now that I'm done adding the titles, I'm going to use the menu section at the left to unhide the cards. Now I'm going to grab the episode 9 hero image and place it above the cards, and I'm going to mask it with a shape so it's only revealed above the cards. I'm going to change the color of the Star Wars logo from solid black to transparent with a white outline, and I'm going to put a translucent gradient behind it to maximize the visibility of that logo above the hero image. And speaking of visibility, I'm going to add a shadow to the movie card component to make it look like an actual stack of cards. I'm going to duplicate the episode 9 card and put it off to the side, and I'm going to add a translucent dark overlay above the poster because all but one of these cards is going to be inactive. Now I'm going to take the gradient that's behind the Star Wars logo, duplicate it, and put it at the bottom of the hero image because that is where some of our buttons are going to go. To create a button, I'm going to use a rectangle, and I'm going to use the nodes on the inside of the rectangle to make rounded corners. And this will be the movie trailer button, which I'll make transparent with a 1 pixel border. So I'm not thrilled with this 2 gradient look, so I'm going to delete one of the gradients and move the other gradient to the left along with the logo and the trailer button. I of course flipped the gradient 90 degrees so it dissolves into the hero image. I widened it so it could fit all of the components that are going on top of it. And now I'm going to add the title of the active movie along with an additional movie info button. And here I'm playing around with the page title as well as the navigation menu for the website. And I still don't know what the final result will be, so I am going to put that task on the back burner, and I'm going to add an additional button, which will be a Find Tickets button, since this movie is not actually out yet. The other 8 films will instead have a button that says Rent or Buy. So let's move this menu button to the top right of the screen. We'll add a gradient behind that as well that will dissolve into the hero image. For this next step, if you haven't done so already, duplicate the component corresponding to the episode 9 card. You're going to want to ungroup that component and use those items to create a new component. And we want to use a new component because we want to remove that translucent dark overlay that we put above the movie poster in this one card without doing so in any of the other cards. And this creates the visual effect of an active movie card, but to make it pop even more, I'm going to add a square to the back of the movie card components, and I'm going to use a shadow to create an outer glow. And I'm also going to add an arrow that points up toward the hero image to indicate which movie is currently active. Once everything looks good, I'm going to rename the artboard to episode 9 and duplicate it. And on this new artboard, I'm going to shift the active movie card to the left by 115 pixels. I also duplicated the inactive episode 8 card so I could copy and paste the information on what's going to eventually be the active episode 8 card. I also changed the Find Tickets button to a Buy or Rent button, and I placed the episode 8 hero image into the hero section, and now I'm placing the episode 8 poster into the active card. And I'm going to readjust this episode 8 movie poster size so the title doesn't appear in the window. I'm going to rename this artboard Episode 8, duplicate it, and rename the new one Episode 7. And of course, for Episode 7, I'm going to repeat the process that I used to create the active cards for Episodes 9 and 8, and I'm going to do that for the rest of the episodes. Now that we've completed all of the active states, we're going to adjust the gradient at the left so the logo looks good above each of the hero images. So now I'm just making some minor tweaks to the Star Wars logo and some other elements, and I'm going to run through each of these artboards one by one to make sure everything looks good. So now we're going to go to the top left where it says prototype. And on each artboard, we're going to select each movie card and connect it to its corresponding destination. Once the prototyping is finished, make sure the Episode 9 artboard is your home page, and we're going to select the play button toward the top right of the screen. So we'll maximize this and click through the preview to see how the prototype feels. So from right to left, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's a truck driving in the background. So here there's a bit of a problem where the active Episode 1 card covers up the Episode 2 and Episode 3 cards. As you can see, when Episode 1 is active, there's no way to go directly to either Episode 2 or Episode 3. You have to instead click out to one of Episodes 4 through 9 and then go back to Episode 2 or 3. It looks like everything else works as intended, but we're going to have to add some functionality to this user interface to address this issue of the episode 1 active card covering up the episode 2 and episode 3 cards. So I'm thinking something like left and right arrows to allow the user to easily navigate between the cards without having to select each card individually.
Let's exit out of the prototype preview and go back into the design view. So I'm going to use the triangle tool to create left and right arrows that the user is going to use to navigate through the cards. And so I'm going to put these arrows within the splash component that I created toward the beginning of the project. And that will enable these arrows to show up on all of the artboards. If you didn't create a splash component at the beginning, you can just copy and paste all of the arrows onto each artboard. And so now we're going to go to the prototype view, and we're going to connect the arrows to the corresponding artboards. Obviously, the left arrow should connect to the artboard corresponding to the predecessor film, and the right arrow should connect to the artboard corresponding to the successor film. So now that we're back in the prototype preview and we select the left arrow, we could easily navigate through each of the movies. And even though the episode 1 card covers up the 2 and 3 cards, we could easily navigate to episode 2 and 3 by just using the right arrow. But there's still a UI improvement that we can make that could polish the overall usability of this website. And I'll show you what I have in mind. So instead of having the inactive cards always stacking toward the right, we could have the inactive cards always stacking toward the active card. So the inactive cards toward the left of the active card can have the episode number on the left side of the card, and the inactive cards toward the right of the active card can have the episode number on the right of the card. And that way an active card never fully covers up any of the other cards, so you never have the issue that we dealt with earlier, which is, for example, episode 1 card covering up the episode 2 and episode 3 cards. Okay, now that our artboards are complete, we can hit the play button at the top right to go back into the prototype preview. So now when we click through these to the left, you'll notice that the inactive cards at the right restack to where the active card is now basically at the top of a pyramid, or at the top of a set of stairs. And so when we get all the way to episode 1, the staircase is facing the opposite direction as it did when we started at episode 9. And so combining that with the arrows, we've given the users 2 easy ways to quickly navigate through the cards. I think I'm going to use this episode 8 artboard for my Dribbble account. Anyway, if you got anything out of that, then remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Just as I have no real intro, I also have no real outro, but I'm going to try this new in-card screen layout. So up here, you should see my previous video, and down here you should see, I guess, a video that YouTube recommends. So let's see how this goes.